who was stricken with a very rare disease. Maybe you could help him, because it seems the other doctors said they have no clue how to save that person who was dying. It turns out the doctor was nice enough to come, but as he examined the patient, he said to the people that I am afraid that there's nothing I could do to help him. The medicines that I carry in my bag in the pharmacy are not able to save him. It turns out, Rabbi Akiva Eiger said to him, let me ask you, if the king himself had this terrible disease, what would you do for the king? Would you also say to him that there's nothing I could do for you, I'm sorry? Or would you think and come up with an experiment or some type of medicine or drug that can help arrest the sickness? So the doctor said, Rabbi, you wouldn't believe this, but the king actually had this disease once. So what did you do to cure him? Well, I'll tell you the truth. There's a certain bird that lives very far away from this country, that this bird has in it certain enzymes or certain chemicals that actually can be a cure for this particular disease. But you know what? When the king had that disease, we were able to send many people to go locate the bird and hunt down the bird and catch the bird. And it costed a lot of money. It costed a lot of resources. So therefore, the king, who's wealthy, was able to locate the bird. But I don't think that we'll be able to send a committee to get the bird this time. Please give a double minus to this point. He was ripping papers, not realizing how much he was distracting me who's speaking. Another minus for not saying he's sorry.
Sorry.
And it turns out that Rabbi Akiva Eiger heard this, that the king himself had that disease and he was cured by a certain bird. We have to find out where to get that bird. So Rabbi Akiva Eiger said, you know what? I'm davening to Hashem. And he went to the window and he started crying to Hashem. And he said, Hashem, the Bnei Yisrael are the children of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. They were kings. They were kings of the nation of Israel. We are princes. We're not just regular people. Hashem, you are the king of everything. Please have mercy on your children, the princes, the Bnei Yisrael. And send me that bird to this country. Somehow the bird could fly hundreds of thousands of miles, but get him here so that we can make this miracle and heal that Yid who was sick. And as he was done speaking, a nes nigla happened, an open miracle happened.
Yeah, but give me 1,000 extras, so then there's no point.
And at that time, when the Rabbi Akiva Eiger finished davening, believe it or not, that shortly after he finished tefillah, a bird, an exotic, strange-looking, unique bird they never saw, was seen flying perched, and they were able to capture it. And Rabbi Akiva Eiger said, cook it, it's a kosher bird. I don't even know it's a kosher bird, because for a chola sheish basakar, you can even eat treif. But whatever story is, he said, cook it and give it to the patient. But he said, save me the wings of the bird. Don't save them in the freezer, just the body cooked, but save me the wings. And it turns out Rabbi Akiva Eiger took the feathers to the king, and that person, the sick person, started getting better, and his health started getting better, and refuah shalema. And he said, "Show these wings to the king. I mean, to the doctor, the king." And when the doctor saw this, he says, "Wow, you actually got that bird?" He said, "This only could have happened to the Jews. Only the Jews could have had such a power that they could turn to their God, and He could make an open miracle and save the chola."
I like that story.
Now, really, when I heard this story, I was thinking that really Rabbi Akiva Eiger could have davened that the Yid got a refuah shalem even without the medicine. Hashem could make it to refuah. Abu Chatzera used to give people a bottle of water, and he used to say, Hashem should make this water heal. Baba Sali. And you know what? Rabbi Kiva could have done that. But I guess he wanted to show people you have to do ishtadlus, and he wanted to show that when you daven with kavanah and your malam is chus requires, so Hashem can bring the Yeshua to you from the other side of the world. Okay, Rabbi Isai, please give those two boys over there another minus because they're distracting me. Yes, instead of sitting straight, wasn't you? Okay, not you, him. Okay, double minus over here. We're tossing things in the garbage and distracting me. Okay. One more great story from this book. No, as a matter of fact, you have an assignment. Please circle this boy's name. He has an assignment because he's playing with things on his desk, not becoming of a 7th grader. Maybe if you weren't in 2nd, 7th grade. I don't please throw away those things on the floor. Okay. One more great story for you. Rabbi Spero tells a story that happened just recently in Los Angeles. There is a great man who has become an icon in Klal Yisrael. Icon means a symbol. You're just looking at him and right away you say, this person is a Baal Chesed, a Baal Tzedakah. He became very wealthy.
He kicked my desk a million times. Rabbi, he kicked my desk.
Rabbi, he's annoying everybody.
He's kicking my desk.
He's touching my desk, kicking my desk.
He's kicking my desk.
Kick it down.
So move your desk to the wall, please. Thank you. And it's a beautiful story. We know today there's a great man in Los Angeles. His name is Shlomo Yehuda Rachnitz. And I needed a computer. I needed a computer for Torah shows. And I sent him a letter saying, I love your music that you made. And I said I need a new computer for Torah shows. And it costed $2,000. And he sent me the computer. He actually sent me a check. So it turns out a lot of people send him letters asking for help. And he tries to help everyone. He just donated $1 million to Yeshiva Torah Vodas. He just donated to every Kollel member in Mir Yeshiva a bonus. Somehow he is able to use his mazel and his genius to support Torah. So one day he saw somebody in shul. One second. I'm sorry. No one was asked to leave. If you please don't come back if you want. That embarrasses me more than anything else.
Why he threw it at my face?
Okay, so you can wait outside and you won't do it again.
Your face or your back?
All right, boys. It's embarrassing when cousins are fighting with each other.
I would have done really so annoying.
Okay, please circle his name.
No, Rebel. No,
And
anything him. He told me that I'm a weirdo. Don't circle my name. Rebel.
I don't know, but several boys just made a terrible interruption in the recording, and I'm meichel you, but I'm telling you the truth. It hurts.
Thank you.
It takes away the professionalism that I'm trying to create. It's like embarrassing me in public. That's what you're really doing. Which Chazal say is not a good thing if someone wants to have a chelik in olam haba. So even if you find yourself a rowdy student, you don't have to disrupt my presentations. Boys who have a circle on their name will be asked to be given an assignment.
What if you have to?
Okay? Now, listen what happened. There was a man in shul praying with his siddur upside down. And he had beard and
How was he playing?
he was upside down. So he was sitting right next to this philanthropist, this great Jewish benefactor, and he couldn't help but noticing that the guy next to him must be a fraud or a phony. A phony means a fake thing, not the real thing. So he knew A fraud is also someone who's fake. So he thought to himself, I'm going to teach this guy a lesson. If he's here in Los Angeles coming to collect charity, like hundreds of thousands of Mishulachim that come to the big Jewish cities to collect money, I'm going to teach him a lesson. And I'll try to remember this guy, his face. I recognize him because anyone who prays from a sitter upside down, obviously he's not really praying. He's just playing games and acting like he's praying. But his sitter's upside. So it turns out, within the month, he shows up at the door, knocking and asking for a donation, a contribution. So usually when you come to Gevir, he wants to see a letter from a rabbi that's endorsing you. And the rabbi already interviewed you and asked you, what's your problem? Is anyone sick? Are you making a wedding? What job do you have? How much money do you need? And they usually write a letter telling people, help this man. So it turns out, the man was there, and Rabbi Rechnitz said, oh, come here. Read me a siddur. Read me a siddur. I want to make sure you could read a siddur, and that you're a good Jew. Sometimes there are goyim that act like Jews and they collect money. So he suspected him, was chayshin him. You know, it says kabdeu v'chashteu. So he says, let me see if you could read. And the guy takes the siddur, turns it upside down, and he's reading.
When he was a kid.
So he said, change the page. He changed the page, and again, he's reading without one mistake, upside down. So he says, what's going on here? So he says, I'm a Yemenite Jew. And when I was a kid, I sat right opposite my teacher. But we only had in the classroom one siddur. And we all had to share one siddur. So since I sat opposite my teacher, I learned how a chet looks by looking at it upside down. An aleph upside down, a zayin upside down. My alphabet in my mind is an upside down alphabet. That's how I learned. So even till today, years later, that's how I read. I turn it to do it upside down, and instead of going from right to left, he has to read from left to right, because now the sprint is also upside down. So that's how you. So when Shlomo Yehuda saw this, he says, "Wow, we have to be done like our fellow Jew. I'm going to give you a big check." And he gave him a big check of money because he was impressed that here I thought this guy might be a faker, a phony, a fraud. In reality, he was a Ehrlich Yid, a from Yid. I heard a beautiful story from A.B. Cohn, the brother of Dr. Jack Cohn. And it's such a lovely story that right when I was making Havdalah on Shabbat, Motzai Shabbat, I told my Eshet Chayil, my wife, that I have to tell you a great story about Ein Od Milvado. And then I called my daughter in Eretz Yisrael, and I left a message on her machine. I said, call me up, I have to tell you a great Ein Od Milvado story. Now you have to know, Ein Od Milvado is a level that we're supposed to reach in our life that makes us know and realize that no one runs the world except Hashem. Sometimes we think, oh, that rich guy, he has clout, he has power, he decides what's going to happen, or maybe if I'm going to get the job, it depends on that person. And we forget that Ein Od Milvado, Chas Shalom, we forget it's only Hashem who's in charge of this world. And sometimes we're embarrassed to do something. What are people going to say? But when you really know Ein Od Milvado, that Hashem runs the world, then no one can help me or harm me unless it's Hashem's will. When you really reach that level, that Hashem's in charge, your whole life becomes better. Hashem starts becoming more active in your life, and He shows you that you're trusting in me, that you really know I'm the only one that could help you, and Hashem helps you even more than someone who doesn't think about Ein Od Milvado. If I may ask the boys who are standing to remember that I asked we should sit nicely. Excuse me, in the corner over there, hiding behind the dresser. It's not Derech Eretz, it's not Midot. I don't know why you're like that. There's no reason not to sit like a mensch. Excuse me, do you need a private invitation to sit down?
No.
So what was the story? There was a Jew living in Mea Sha'arim, which is one of the holiest cities in the entire